Yes, we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to DeltaFi 2023, the first episode, the launch. You got to mute yourself in Rendezvous. We're just getting that feedback. As you guys may have heard from our solo stream last week, we got a new producer, which is music to my ears. It's wonderful news. And with that comes a few growing pains as we transition over, and I teach them all the ropes of all the things I used to do with all four of my arms. Now I can use just two. On my left,
volume too low.
Voice is low. So we're just going to do some sound checks. Basically, the software we work with has templates. You can save them. So it should be a one-time thing, guys. But bear with us here while we get fired up. Glad to see we got Gunny and Rob with me on my left and right. I won't pretend to know which one's which. These two handsome gentlemen.
Yo.
And Gunny and I were live last week, or did a pre-record and then sent it live. But I have legitimately not. Oh, that's my YouTube. Okay, there we go. But I have genuinely not talked markets with Rob in like 3-4 months. So I'm as excited as you guys are to hear his thoughts on what's going on, what he's been up to. The rest, how are you guys?
Feeling good. It's kind of almost spring-like couple days here in Chicago, and to get through these winters, it's something. It's kind of a little metaphor, maybe. I don't know, but I'm pumped because March comes around. What is it? March 1st tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we made it. Chicago can be pretty shitty in the winter, but I think we almost made it through.
Take Chicago and then shave like 10 degrees off your average day, and that's my life.
So, I don't think so, though. People have told me, like, you think so?
No, I mean, they're both shitty, cold, windy cities.
It's not Montreal.
It's definitely not Montreal. True. But like, for example, I ordered a fridge last summer for our reno new home. Actually, I ordered it like a year ago. And it was due to be delivered today. And the guys pulled up, I shit you not, like an hour ago. And they looked at my driveway. They were like, nope, too much snow. There's like this much snow. So I'm like,
are they union workers?
I wasn't even there. My lady was downstairs. She goes, gets the door, blah, blah, blah. And I come up. I'm like, bro, you don't see my shovel right here? Give me 3 minutes. They're like, sorry, sir, we have other deliveries. Like, because she did kind of go down that route. Anyways, these are the weather-related hazards we face. But you know what? 0 hurricanes. None of that bullshit. None of these tornadoes. So no earthquakes.
I would take horrifically cold weather over a hurricane.
That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah. As much as I love Florida, I think I'm pretty comfy with, cross-country skiing and cold.
What is
heated
that?
Floors. Like, heated floors.
This guy couldn't do you a solid. Like,
I know.
I once had at the beginning of COVID, I had a treadmill delivered to the house, and they couldn't get. It was one of those like sexy Peloton treadmills.
Oh, I seen that.
And we were all excited about it. And the way my stairs that go down into our lower levels go, it like does this hard like 180. And the guy would have had to like lift the treadmill over the rail to get it down the next flight. And apparently there was this like massive ongoing union negotiation between Peloton and whatever union these guys were part of. And they were not allowed to lift the treadmill over the rail. So we had to
like waist height lifting max.
Yep. Had to return the whole thing. It was a fucking disaster. Like,
yeah, I won't continue with this because I don't want to bore everyone with this. But yeah, like I had the couch in my office last week on our last stream. Remember everyone pre-show? I was like, we'll see if we can get it in. 2 guys handled it in 30 minutes. The original delivery guys for the week before, they left it in my garage because all 4 of them couldn't figure it out. Like, I just, a lot of people just don't want to work. My builders are dope though. They just were like, we'll be there tomorrow. We'll figure it out. Take the door off the hinge, whatever. Anyways, so the last piece of our home is this fridge. So naturally it's coming with a lot of spicy delays, but let's talk markets. I mean, we're here to talk markets. The audience is filling up. We've got some guys in the chat. Welcome back, Alex. And I see Shark Toshi in the audience. Josh McGowan, good to have you, brother. And Tibble, one of our pit regulars, one of our stream regulars. Good to have you guys all back, dude. It feels so good to be on the stream again. Finally got the studio set up, got the producer role rolling in, and I'm just excited to pump it.
I miss your charts, dude. I miss your charts. I hope we're gonna fucking dissect some of this stuff. And I mean, I guess if we're playing a drinking game, how many, like, what do we got to drink if the number of times we say Jerome Powell?
Yeah. Or typically I do the drawing tool and then I forget to take it off. So when I go to drag the chart like this, I end up drawing like that. And some guys will just take a drink every time I do that. But yeah, they get pretty wasted. So we might tone that one down. Look, speaking of Jerome Powell, this is his chart. This is his baby, the ES mini futures. I always chart the mini futures just because they don't close as much. So there's less gaps and bullshit. I don't really like the SPX charts. They're just really choppy and gross. And in true, like, I know, Rob, you love about TA is you're kind of like, yeah, but you can like draw a bearish scenario or a bullish scenario, no matter how you want to draw it. Like, and you're not wrong. I think if you want to be a bear here, you could say, hey, rejected at weekly resistance, heading back down. If you want to be a bull, I was kind of like living up here for a bit, and I was like, oh no, the pump chaser zone broke. I better stretch it down and make it fit. But we are coming into the most legitimate pump chaser zone, which is like the PCZ. This right here.
Is that called in sample analysis?
Is that what that is? Yeah, I don't know. But look, I like this one better anyways because it's more relevant. I think the longer you draw out the range, like the full low to the most recent full high, like that's the most legit fib. And we've got this interesting intersection here, 382. Oh, Bitcoin.
What are you looking at? Spoos?
This is
he's looking at the spoos.
Spoos. So
he's a macro.
Well, we're gonna start here.
The macro analyst.
Even though I don't really think that charting.
Have we pivoted the show already?
We're starting. We're gonna start with Jerome Powell and the ES futures.
Rob,
we're all right.
Am I back in TradFi prop because no one can take the
Rob
heat.
Cued me into this. Okay. Anyways, we've got an interesting intersection here between this big meme down trend line that everyone's been watching and this 382. So I like it. I like it for a bounce. I like it for a midterm spring low.
What do we call that? A breakout retest?
Breakout retest.
Is that what we call that in Chicago?
Bing, boom, bop. Now, if we were to, this is kind of what I was looking at before. We get like an ABCD harmonic up here. That'd be interesting. This would be new bull market. For I say that with like almost like air quotes because spring rally, whatever, selling may walk away. But yeah, if we get an ABCD here, it's gonna look really obvious in hindsight.
Is it tracking Bitcoin?
It's not. You know what? It is or
is
it
isn't. Like risk asset? Like, can you overlay it and see some similarity?
I mean, we could try an overlay. I'm really more of a decoupler, as you guys know, and Rob and I have talked about this a lot. The overall market cap of this whole thing. We could look that up right now. Here's the thing: if you track, this correlation stuff, where you say, oh, Bitcoin has to follow the ES mini futures or the SPX, then it can't be any other way. You are going to miss what I think, and I think Rob's on board with this. I think all three of us are, but like this decoupling event, right? Like, how long does crypto as a whole remain valued below, let's pick on Amazon today, just Amazon stock. Like, what is their market cap? It's higher than all of crypto combined. And if you think that that's going to exist forever, which to me is a mispricing, then cool, like trade the correlation and it never leaves, the station. But if you are of the impression that at some point the valuations across the crypto industry should rival at least one major, arguably the biggest US company, but then it's inevitable that at some point that decoupling happens. And I don't want to miss that because I'm staring at like correlation trades and, charting the 5-minute SPX against Bitcoin. Like, so I don't ascribe to that, even though you can see, especially last year, there was a lot of tracking between the two moving together.
I mean, it's amazing. If you look at the spoofs from just like March 2020 straight up to like January of 22, like just that straight walk. Like you would think if you were like if your intro to trading was like shit coins, you would think that you were about to get rugged. I just can't, like, I just went back and looked at that and I cannot believe how like up and to the right nonstop it is on a daily. It's pretty amazing.
Now look at this. This is one that I have been tracking. This is now, if you were to go back to say like December 28th, so basically coming in from the lows that marked the end of last year, and you were to chart relative performance of the S&P, the majors, the indices, the Dixie down here for fun, and then you put on Bitcoin and ETH, I mean, we're outperforming. And so I guess the debate you could have is it correlated, decorrelated? Is it decoupling, or is it just like a higher beta? This goes up more. This comes down a bit, this comes down more. So I think there's an argument here to say we haven't decoupled yet, as much as I want to call it that. Everything's kind of moving together. We just get the higher beta opportunities, which last year meant we experienced a greater drawdown, and this year, in the next couple of years, could mean that we experience a much greater upside.
Are we just like back to my my technical analysis as if I was like 5 years old? Like the 12 period and the 26 period EMAs are up. They're crossed up above the 100-day moving average EMA. Like, are we bullish?
Which time frame are you looking at?
I'm looking at daily. I look at dailies.
Okay, I like daily. Let's go see. Let's look at the Coinbase one, and let's delete. Yeah, we're bullish. Now we're dangerously close to a cross, but we're not crossed yet. Prior to the CPI print last month, or actually, wow, that was like a week ago. But basically, that CPI print, we didn't even cross bearish either, which was an interesting signal.
Mm-hmm.
It was another interesting signal that I got kind of tipped off on. I don't know, somebody on Twitter mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, I don't even really look at the stock that much. The stochastic, but let's just isolate it here a little bit. So this was interesting. We had all this upside in the market, and we had some down, but the stochastic had actually crossed completely bearish and was coming back into bullish right here. Meanwhile, like, the weekly, 3-day and all that, we're still kind of overbought, but the daily was signaling basically like we're ready to move up again for a bit. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. That was a big part of what made me like wake up early on CPI day and get ready to buy that dip. And I mean, even I longing it was blown away by the excessive kind of force of that.
Are these like you want to use these as like looking for divergence between direction and
who loves
strengthening?
These? Yeah, you know who loves these things is Cote. Mr. Cote was a big fan of stochastic. He's the only reason I have it on my chart like template. I don't use it very much.
Where is that guy?
I don't know. I still hear from him once in a while. He's really big into like Bitcoin mining infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. He's really moved hard into the mining space, business-wise. So, but yeah, he got me onto the stochastic. Something about like the 3-day has never done X, and it's a great signal. I don't know, but yeah. So I don't know, but I did notice that daily had crossed bullish just before the CPI print. I was like, damn, this could pop, and all my take profits were like up through here. So even I was like left wanting for up there, but yeah, that was interesting. So I guess the next question is, guys, when next catalyst? Right now, it's kind of like the market is sitting in purgatory, just waiting for a sign,
a narrative.
Yeah. It's really like, honestly, it could just go both ways. I'm very strongly leaning towards upside. I'm not touching my spot pegs, blah, blah, blah. But, I'm not going to sit here and be like, it hashed a moon. I wouldn't be shocked. If it rolled over for a little bit, it would be sensible. If it just went straight north, it would be pretty sensible. What are you guys thinking? I know you're all like super high time frame, don't care, working hard, but for the sake of the show,
I think crypto in general and Bitcoin, like, it took some serious licks last year and at the end of the year, and the whole FTX Alameda debacle, like, the ripple effects, it's hard for me to really believe how tied together a lot of the biggest players were, but then it's not. I mean, I think like, Sam was kind of anointed the king of the West. And, if you were in the derivatives or lending or borrowing or whatever market, in especially kind of, global period, you were doing kind of business there. So the wild cards of like Digital Currency Group, right? The Grayscale Trust, we're still seeing, that thing is like 45% discount right now. We're seeing kind of headlines trickle out about a potential, restructuring there and a potential IPO, and how much better the Digital Currency Group balance sheet would look if this wasn't a 45% discount to what Bitcoin spot price is, because it holds all of that Bitcoin in the trust, right? So, there's just everything got hit across the board. Everything got deleveraged. It's like any sort of counterparty, bilateral agreements you had between institutional people, like everything kind of got almost double checked, triple checked, and almost reset. So liquidity truly got sucked out of the system. It's like, I think Arthur Hayes nails it on the head when in his letters every couple of weeks, he always says like the Bitcoin market and the crypto capital markets are the last free markets on earth. Like there is no lender of last resort. There is no Fed, World Bank, all of that stuff. That like, that is truly one of the beauties of the signals and info we get from this market that, got up to $3 trillion of value. Like there is no one there to backstop things. So things are going to move farther than you would think in both directions. And I think that the bottom line is it feels to me like for Bitcoin, a lot of the worst is out there and behind it. Now, the thing that Ethereum kind of got a new check, like, and I'm super bullish kind of Ethereum just long term. I really am. But, Gary Gensler coming out the other day in his little New York Magazine piece or whatever saying, Bitcoin is the only non-security or whatever. Like, so, ETH potentially like has some, waiting for the shoe to fall type of headline or day. And I think that's, that's not necessarily great. Like Gary has been, he's got it out for crypto right now. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what happened between him and Sam. I know that, they are ready to anoint Sam, but that's kind of my take. Gunny, how do you look at things?
I just don't believe that crypto's not a U.S. market.
Yeah,
that's kind of my take on it right now. And I think like just the reason that it will be eternally sustainable is really based on that, and whether or not the level or kind of the risk spectrum that the U.S. and U.S. regulators are willing to accept will determine how much push the U.S. its overall level of involvement at like an institutional level. It's just even, I mean, we've been in this for a long time. It's never been a U.S. market. It's just, we think it is. I remember being on I remember driving and listening to like an old CZ podcast from like, I want to say it was from like 2017. And he said something that was very profound to me, was that he's like, you have to learn to think about crypto in a non-Western way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do that, it unlocks a lot of opportunity and unlocks a lot of what crypto is about. And I think that is something that has always like stayed in my mind. And I think when we see things like news from Gensler and things like that, it always ruminates. Like that podcast always like makes sense to me. And so the other thing too is that like I think that Gensler is trying to become Secretary of the Treasury, and I think this narrative that he's establishing is really designed towards that more than anything. In the same way that like Elliot Spitzer took on whoever, you know, Wall Street in the 90s because he wanted to become mayor of New York, or like it's like a political playbook that gets played out over and over again. And you know, it's interesting, like when you see somebody like a behemoth like Coinbase, who has tens of billions of dollars, and like I mean, I think Brian Armstrong's a fucking legend. I think that he wouldn't be afraid to use it. And like the fact that if they're going to be kind of the front men leading the kind of the battle with the SEC, or at least working with them in ways that can create some prescriptive guidance around the U.S. Gensler's term is over in 2026. Like, I think what happens in a lot of these cases and a lot of this, the kind of U.S. influence, it's like once that stuff kind of persists, and then like you get a turnover, like the lawyers or like who are in the regulatory bodies, they leave to go work in the private sector. The chairman changes, the governors change, and like these things get cycled through. And so there's kind of a half-life on this narrative that, you know, we'll see how it plays out. And like, can the US have an influence? Of course. It's, you know, it's still the largest economy in the world by a, you know, long shot. And so like having its involvement is extremely, you know, important. And I just, that's my take on it. And I think ultimately, as you said, Robbie, like a lot of the choppy waters maybe are behind it on for Bitcoin, because obviously they've already separated it from the kind of the peloton, and you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens otherwise. I think that it's really important to, you know, if you are somebody who lives in like kind of the western half of the world, that you try to maintain a view that is like much more geographically agnostic when you're thinking about how to navigate what's going on here.
You can't underestimate the global influence of the U.S. And one test case of this could be seen in like drug prohibition, right? Global drug policy. And even going back to like Harry Anslinger in the 1930s, I read a book on it, Chasing the Scream by Johan Hari. Really good book if anyone wants to read it. But I mean, this like guy single-handedly, they were going to end prohibition, and he had a job as like the whatever, I guess DEA didn't exist at the time, but he was in charge of prohibition. And once they were going to end it, he was like, oh shit, I'm going to be out of a job. Big part of why he then just pushed to like ban and outlaw other drugs, to a point where like, I think it was, I don't know which country, Vietnam or something. And they're like, yeah, like we have opium dens as part of our culture, this and that. And they basically stood back and said like, no, we're not banning this shit. And they just got sanctioned to shit and then kind of caved and had to enforce this stuff. And now look at around the world and you think it's crazy that any of these drugs would be legal. That was US.
Right.
But at the same time, we have China now, which is a nice segue back to our charts here. We have China now, you know, kind of teasing at the idea, perhaps quietly sanctioning Hong Kong to re-enable crypto trading for retail traders, which has perhaps been a big part of like what's driving some of this excitement over the last month. Have you guys looked into that at all? I got the article here on CoinDesk for what it's worth.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was a narrative. I mean, we were in that mode where it was quote unquote, you know, China buying, Asians buying lately on that rally. So, but there's always narratives. I mean, I remember the rally before that, before it sold off, was that some smart money on Binance was buying the Bitcoin BUSD pair and selling the Bitcoin USDT pair to get out of their BUSD. Before that announcement on that, like, I don't know. Narratives definitely, you've got to keep up with them, and you've got to understand, like, what people think is going on. But
or what they're about to think is going on.
More
Yeah.
importantly, what's coming. What will they think in a year?
Yeah.
What does it's the poker thing, the poker adage, right? It's not what he's thinking, it's what he thinks I'm thinking.
Yeah. I'm all in because I know you ain't got shit. What does he think I have is more important than what I have.
Fool me once, shame on me.
Exactly.
A fool won't get fooled again.
Exactly. So I definitely the world needs crypto more than the US needs crypto. There's no question about it. I think that's
a good point.
One of the things we've seen over the last year, especially, is that kind of the global trust for governments and even central banks to make the right decisions and do the right thing is, like, I think it's at a low, right? I mean, we've seen stuff in different areas, obviously with the COVID stuff and then economically and geopolitical war type of stuff that it's been a pretty, depressing and sad time. And like, people's trust for government in so many places is, like, truly at a low. I mean, you look everywhere. I mean, you name a country, it's like, it's crazy. So this to me strengthens the thesis and my conviction and like, what we're doing here and what we truly see is the potential of this technology and Bitcoin and censorship resistance and store of value and non-state currency and all of that. It is such a, to me, we are, further validating more than ever in this past 12 months, 18 months. And then also you throw in the fraud and the scam shit that, like, we saw. So, like, people are, for the most part, it's not been our shiniest stretch here. People are not always doing the right thing. In fact, a lot of times people are doing the wrong thing. So
I think history would teach us that anybody left unchecked will eventually slide into the wrong thing. I mean, it's a systemic toxicity that emerges. And that's like, somebody who's like anti-regulation would say, oh, you're just preaching for more regulation. I don't know that regulation's the answer in its current form. I just know that you have to keep humans in check. They're greedy, and even good people will do bad things if they're in a system where bad things are completely left unchecked. I mean, that's just,
when you
could replace the bankers, but if you don't replace the banking system, the new guys who step in, they're just going to repeat the same shit. It's accumulation of power, wealth, all that. So,
I mean, code and math.
That's where I was just going, like, so we're really going to count on the math here and the code, and you have to hard code it in. And that's a big part of why, despite any kind of upswing, downswing in the market, I just stay excited and stay enthused by what's being built.
Right.
Yeah.
Downswings become opportunities, and upswings are exciting and feel good.
Yeah, and and then there's always going to be that little voice in the back of your head during the bear market that's like, well, what if this never comes back? What if the haters are right? And what if blockchain technology is not the answer? What if tokens don't matter? Like, that stuff always sneaks in. I would rather be front and center invested, looking, for opportunities in this market because of some of those underlying ideals than any other place. And certainly like at any other job. So I think for me, like, and that's what keeps me around during some of the darker days, is just thinking through, like, how best to spend my time, where best to look for opportunities, and what do I want to help build in this world?
It's kind of one of the beauties of this end of trading too. Like, everybody has their moments of doubt, and like you go through your bad bad streaks and bad shit and adversity, and like trading, I mean, you heard me say this before, like, you know, you go from just like being absolutely flawless with what you do to not being able to trade your way out of a wet paper bag. And like, that is a painful experience. But like, when you can like say to yourself, like, tomorrow is a new day, or I can like I get to control my destiny here. I get to make the decisions. Like, it's very liberating. And like, it is one of the things that should be bringing you back. And you're just like, you start to learn from it. You kind of like, you got to get a little angry. You got to get out of your own fucking way and just deal with it. It's a tough, it's risk reward. It doesn't come free. And like,
it's hard.
Definitely, it's hard. People have different risk tolerances that are like out of control. You know, like, it's just how you gotta weather. I mean, Rob and I've been through a couple of these, man. It's like,
yeah, I'm coming in on my third. I actually managed to have 2 bear markets during the 2019 bear market, because I was up mid bear on an investment and let that go to 0 too. So yeah, I've been through 3 bear markets now out of 2. And it's really hard. You know, it's not for everybody. Trading especially, because in trading, let's just like look at Bitcoin, for example, which by the way had a very delicious red
That was like
15-minute candle.
Right when we came on.
Right at the start of the show. Yeah, we surely did that.
You're listening to Robbie's, like, they were watching his facial expressions and just like.
Yeah, he probably saw me like pulling on my shirt on the side. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get off. But no, like, just look at this right now, right? You have this chop. You have this like down, up, down, up. Now, if you're holding Bitcoin, price hasn't moved, you know, since February 24th. It's only 4 days ago, but like, price has literally not moved. It's just gone down a bit and up a bit, but the median line's right here. But if you're trading this, and like me, admittedly, I have a very strong lean towards like, you know, when next up leg, and I think it'll be pretty strong. So I had to challenge myself this week to like chill the fuck out, because I was really trying to get long off these range lows. Like, I really want to be long through what I expect is going to be like whatever this looks like, but like ultimately the next leg. And that can cost you a lot of money. You know, I gave back maybe 30% of, you know, on my perp account of like what I made through this being right, you know, longing, having some nice setups. And in this little zone and through here gave back like quite a chunk. And now that's part of the game. And I look month over month and I say, hey, look, you know, this is working out. This is okay. But it's really important to know when to pull the brakes and just be like, okay, I don't actually have to be long from here. You know, we could wait for a little confirmation high or whatever. But I really did. I had to put myself in check over the weekend and through yesterday even.
Right, because above your range highs, like, you're going to price discovery again, and you're going to lose 10% of the move, but like, you're going to capture the meat of it.
And that may be like, and that's more like trend trading, breakout trading, stuff like that. It's a little different. But getting into the nitty gritty here, yeah, like, I'd love to have a nice cute setup, you know, like if I can risk right against these lows, then I can get a lot more size and not risk that much money. Like, I'm trying to maybe you know, like trying too hard perhaps to get that into that position, because realistically, like, if we come back down into here, like, this is a really juicy area to be thinking about long. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm bearish below this level. Down here, that would be pretty ugly, but then we would just let that play out. And, you know, maybe we're getting right back into like a higher time frame reload zone down here, still bullish, longer term, midterm. So yeah, this stuff's hard. It's really challenging. And I think for the vast majority of people, exploring the space, getting your feet wet, putting your hands on a few things, playing with DeFi, building positions in, you know, over time.
Hey, that's why we're doing the show, right?
Yeah, like, just
give a little.
I hate accounts on Twitter, for example. There's other places people put out content, but like accounts that just put out big fat green P&Ls and they market themselves as this trading guru. And that's cool, man. If you're making big money, do it. But what you're doing is you're creating a false sense of like, look at this. You could do this too. Take that risk. And people don't know what they're doing. Trading is extremely challenging, and those traders don't post. A lot of them don't post like negative P&Ls. And anyway, so it is it is something you got to be really careful with, because it is so easy to fall into the trap of thinking like, hey, if I just add a little leverage in my life, I can buy a fast car. And it's usually quite the opposite.
So I think our overall take is like, are we cautiously bullish? Are we in a holding pattern, circling the airport, waiting to land? Like, what are we thinking?
Yeah. I mean, I am still of the mind that it's a 2019 fractal here. And I have to think about this in like a cycle perspective, where it's like, what did we just go through? First of all, we just spent a year doing one of these. We kind of found a capitulation event in FTX. As painful as it was, that is the kind of thing that typically would mark the bottom.
Those motherfuckers.
Those jerks. Rip that Band-Aid off, though. I mean, God, now that we know what we know, thank God they're gone. I mean, imagine the CZ and FTT depegging. Like, imagine that didn't go down, how much this would have metastasized and been that much worse. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm still of the mind that we're kind of in one of these. And this doesn't look like much. And obviously seeing how it all ended, it's like, oh, that was easy. I should have been long there. But I remember this in 2019. It was not a fun place to be. It was very scary. Every time it dipped, you thought it was going back to the lows, new lows. There's bears calling for 1K, 2K. And so I'm still prescribed to this, whether that costs me a bit extra cash trying to get that. But look, we're going to be live in a few weeks, in a few months throughout the year. And if we're back down in here, I'm going to be sitting here saying, look at that reload zone tag, touch the W, Wyckoff check. Like, that would be totally normal. There's bearish divergence. The buy volume died up here. There's really no buying interest up here, according to the chart. So, it is a tricky, and this is why this particular area, this particular moment is going to drive people nuts, because there is no immediate catalyst for action. And often in the absence of those, you get chop and downside, like that slow kind of like do. Totally. And then it just consolidates and waits for a reason. And then maybe it's a higher low from here, and we go. That's, I think, the most likely outcome is that we're forming a higher low here. But
Messi and I were talking the other day about, maybe somebody was on Twitter about it too, that like the whole like DeFi summer thing actually there was like a false start in like mid 2020. Yeah, it's really like when the eight meme started, and then because we remember because Messi and I were like, we got heavy into this project called Dusk, and like it was a total like 2020 play, and then if you looked at it, Dusk like 4 or 5x, and then like dropped like 60-70% of its value or something, and then it ripped. There you go. Is that it?
Oh, right here.
Right there. Yeah.
This was the test pump. Yeah.
Yep. And that's what this feels like to me. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And then the question is, I mean, this was summer, right? So like July, August, we had a crazy DeFi summer. BNB chain went live. Yam token, there was some interesting stuff.
Yam, right.
And this, actually, one of my coworkers is one of our analysts. He's actually waiting for this. Like, he's like, I don't care about if we break out of this range. I'm not chasing these highs. I am waiting for high time frame reload zones. I've got my daily loaded up. And in that case, going back to Bitcoin, like, that's that more painful level that we would be, take a drink. We would be exploring that more like down here. And that, and I kind of scoffed at him because I'm like, man, there's so much opportunity. How could you be waiting for this? But that's what he's waiting for. And that doesn't mean he's calling for it. He's just saying like, I know what I'll be doing if we get down here. Now, if you're like me and you're not careful, I'm going to be pretty careful. But if you're like me and you're not careful, you're trying to catch a higher low here. You're trying to catch a higher low here. You're trying to call the breakout here. If you do that and you get, you're eating shit, this is where you puke your positions. And it's where you lose interest, and it's where you pull back, and it's where you say, oh, maybe I'm wrong. And so there is something to be said for like waiting for that to come in, if it does, because when it gets there, you're fresh as a daisy, feeling good with all your cash, like ready to go. And
and then you're actually riding the wave. Yes. And you have like that asymmetric, like, if I'm wrong, it's going to cost me. I know where I'm being invalidated. And then if I'm right, like, I'm going to be right fast.
And so who knows when this like daily time frame reload zone comes in, right? Do we move up to 42K by May, which is an area that I love, and then following that, through the summer, we come back down in here and test this, and that's your reload zone. Like, I don't know. But I do know that at some point, this daily time frame will come and visit a big spicy reload zone like this. And that's probably going to be the platform that sets off the whole next cycle. Whether that's, more in August up here, or whether that's like, fuck your spring rally and we just have to do it pretty soon. Again,
the on-chain derivatives narrative goes fucking swimmingly well, and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, like actually, we should talk about that. Solana had another issue this week. What's your guys' take on it? I know you guys are pretty close with the Solana stuff. Like, it was a different one, right? I mean, every time it happens, it's a different reason. Ideally, it's something they identify, they fix. It doesn't happen that same way again. What was this one?
Bullish. I think it was a bullish downtime. Bullish unlock.
I like it. Keep going. Roll with this. What do we got?
Rinse it out of there.
Yeah.
Get the bugs out. I don't know. It's new. This stuff is Solana's still what, 3 years old, 4 years old. I mean,
mainnet is not even like mainnet was what, like Jan 2020.
But it is 21. I mean, this is super advanced software. It sucks. Believe me, it sucks. It sucks when when there's any downtime at all. And we're coming into this technology as it gets more seasoned and it evolves. Like, you want to see zero downtime. But even if you look at some of the most like storied and relied upon systems on Earth, like CME, the LME, like there's issues. Things happen. I can't tell you how many times in my trading career, like, shit was fucked up. Like it happens. Like in the best and biggest systems. So I think that the bottom line is, when things happen like that, you really get to the nitty gritty on community and communication and everything around it. Because, like, we know already, for everything out there, like, pretty much 50% of people are kind of backing it, and 50% of people at least are just, they hate it.
Looking for any opportunity to put it down. Yeah. Which is weird. I mean, I find it to be a strange conundrum when you go out of your way to like knock a specific like thing. It's like, why is it even on your radar?
It doesn't help. It's like, what are you, a fucking bully? Like, it just doesn't help anybody, right?
Yeah. Are you short? I mean, if you're short, I get it. You're like, hey guys, let's all go down with it. Like, let's all send it to zero. But other than that, it's like, if it's not a threat, Fusion is like this weird Asian-based blockchain. I've heard it be shilled like crazy. It's small. Nobody really cares about it. You don't see too many, what does it call them, ETH maxis hating on it, like, because it's not relevant. So maybe that's bullish hating. Somebody in the chat.
Yeah.
No, I would just say that, like, number one, this last go around was, I would attribute it more to a confluence of like human error during a rollout. One. Two, I think there was some difficulty. Like, there's a lot of coordination that has to happen. You got to, like, that's the one thing that I'll say when they do an upgrade, and you need, I think, 80% of the validators working and upgraded and gossiping in order for the upgrade to actually take effect. And there was some disagreement amongst validators in terms of preparation of rolling it out. I think that there was, one thing that the Solana core team is learning from this is like the importance of having a test environment that is comparable to mainnet, so they can do some like an excessive amount of testing before actually rolling out an upgrade. And I think a couple of those things, like, that's some of the early stuff that kinks are still being worked out. It wasn't something that I would attribute, or anybody for that matter would attribute specifically to like the software or to the functioning of the blockchain, which still, when you remove those elements, like, it's still the play. Like, you're gonna do anything trading on chain. You're going to run on chain order books. You're going to do things that are highly transactional and need high performance. There just is no other spot to do it. Like, you know, you're not going to Polygon. It's got, you know, a TPS of 4.
Maybe
you know,
less, actually. Every time I've said, and I'm not sitting here to hate, like I genuinely bought a bag at the start of the year as part of my DCA, and then I went to send it to a wallet, and it sat at like 4 out of 120 confirmations for like 30 minutes. And then I clicked and it went bink, 120. And I was like, it's just not, it doesn't.
it's funny.
It doesn't
Robbie
vibe.
and I were in Korea, like, I want to say in like 2019, and we were at some coffee shop with the founders of Polygon, and they were like great guys. And we were like, we all got along well, had good chats, like all know each other. And then we saw Sandeep coming out and just like going full fucking ham against Solana. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, I know you're
It's
better
weird.
than us.
It gets cagey. Again, there doesn't seem like it's kind of net negative to be, especially as a founder, to be like out there just throwing shade at anyone.
It is, but it has to be
there's
said.
so much to be gained from.
Yeah, agree. But it, you know, it does have to be said that like you need for this to function well, you need 5.9 level uptime. It's the bottom line, and like something that has to be considered even in these early goings, because there are thousands of applications that are built on this. There is like, you know, was billions, now hundreds of millions of dollars in TVL sitting there, and it's the same rules apply to, you know, everywhere. And and again, we're not going back. Like, we're not going backwards on this. So you know, this continues, like for us as like founders, you know, that build on top of Solana, you know, a lot of things that we have to consider for the longer term of our platform. And we're not moving anything, like, you know, but like it makes you really like need to speak up, and you need to like have a voice, and you need to like be in closer with these engineers to say, look, like, I know there's an idealistic way you want to do things, but then, you know, you should have done this in a UAT environment for the last 2 years, because we need to, like, we just spent the last 6 months coming out of this absolute fucking hell post FTX, and like rebuilding trust in the Solana ecosystem, which like a lot of teams and a lot of engineers spent a lot of time that they could have just been focusing on their projects, like reinstilling that trust. And I think it was starting to you were starting to see the benefits of that. And then this, like, something idiotic like this just happens. And although to us, we know it's, for all intents and purposes, transitory, like it'll, you know, it's not something that's like catastrophic to the chain. It's going to pass. Yeah. But like what it's catastrophic to is just this like instilling of trust and saying, and people knowing like, I can just sit here 24/7 and never have to worry for 1 second. And I think like Robbie's like this is a bullish incident. Like maybe it is, because now they're getting fucking smart and like, oops, like,
well, if that was a human error issue with disagreement, and you know, I think that should be a real smart nut moment, because
shocked if it happens again like that. I can tell you that.
Well, but I was that was in jest, my comment. But I will tell you, it didn't sell off like I think it could have. I mean, I think
barely
like,
ever does. I always go to look for like some steep, crazy panic sell on the down moments, and it never really gives me one. It did come down more than some that day at that moment.
Yeah, no, it did, but there was no real like. I mean, I think the people who are left, like, you're gonna have to pull those coins out of their hands. Kyle Samana, you're gonna have to rip them out of his fucking
talons
hand.
Well, yeah, it's one of those cases too. Like if you didn't sell yet, what's going to be your catalyst, right? Like it was an ugly bear market for Solana and everyone, even down to here into the 20s. And then if you didn't puke your guts out post FTX, and you didn't puke even through like the December, I mean, this shit hit $8. Like if you didn't sell there, what are you waiting for, right? It just feels like now we're probably left with pretty strong hands. But again, you know, chart wise, this thing looks great for a $14 retest. It could, You know,
Good, baby.
I'm not calling for it. I still really want to see this like break through this resistance and get a nice long trade all the way up. But you know, everything looks like we're just at this kind of, like we said earlier, waiting on a catalyst. And does that take us to like, ooh, big, you know, retail China crypto trading coming in June, or is that going to bring us to like a pretty standard, you know, retest here? Like at the end of
I
the
don't
day, I
know.
think it'll
Like,
look really easy in 2 years. We'll be like, oh man, you know, like that was
they
so cool. Why wasn't I there to buy that? Like,
the Chinese will. I mean, to think that they haven't been trading it, I think is kind of fooling ourselves. But holy shit, do they like to trade? I mean, they trade like rebar futures, like these commodities that you wouldn't even think, and you're like looking at limit up day after day of like stuff. You're like, I didn't even know that shit traded futures, and they get nutty. So, I mean, I think that would be amazing if truly there was this whole like number of people who are going to start trading this stuff. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of them have been trading it. Maybe they haven't. You know, you just never fucking know. You don't know that. How many times have they banned Bitcoin? You know, it's like
4 to my account, maybe 5.
at least. I mean, that's like a meme. So
They do it at the trend line, right at the trend line, man. Right before breakout.
What do you take of this? Like they're basically like swing trading Bitcoin with policy, right?
Sure.
Where it's like, you know, they ban it at 60K, then like legalize it at 17K.
Yeah.
Like,
look, it's not
that's
the bottom market, right?
Country,
it's not big. It's not so big that like a couple of sovereigns can't like send it, right? It's
Talk about thoughtful policy decisions, though. I mean, geez, you know, tell me I have to sell it all at 60K and then let me buy it back at 17. Like, thanks, government. That's not bad. It's not bad. I had something I was going to say and ask, and then I lost it. Oh well, it'll come back. Oh
yeah. I mean,
somebody in the chat,
go ahead.
Hero in the chat said, as we were talking about the chain going down, he said other chains have had zero downtime. That is a true story. I think a lot of other chains are EVM compatible. In other words, they are basically taking what is known and already works with Ethereum and repurposing it, retweaking it, changing some of the fees. And I would just say that even my non-dev brain, like I just know what they're doing at Solana is a lot more complicated, completely new, completely different infrastructure, completely new problems. So I don't think it's a fair comparison to say like EVM chain XYZ has never had downtime, therefore is better. They're just taking less risks. They're building, you know, they're not building something new.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. And I say this as honestly as I can. I actually don't hold any Solana right now. I'm not like some Solana hoarder. But you know, it's my 2 cents.
Yeah. No,
Getting quite a little sell-off today. I think the bulls gave up on this range. It would appear.
Yeah, someone hit the red button there. You can see that was a little you know, more on the aggressive side. I'm trying to think if any of Pavel's
I'm poking around in the pit on the side. I'm like, any news?
News? I
Looks
know.
sudden.
Any of Powell's henchmen say anything out there? Like, but the bottom line is like, honestly, there are some really, really bearish people out there, just macro wise right now. You know, like the bonds are selling off, so rates are kind of coming up. You've got the heads of the biggest banks in the US, like the Jamie Dimons of the world, and then like the Goldman Sachs guy today, like saying we think inflation might be a little more sticky than the Fed thinks. And you know, you're starting to, you've got the talking heads are out there. Like it's a battle. I mean, there's people who are really digging in short positions. Like they're like really digging in on the short side. Some of them have gotten absolutely run over because they were super bearish at the bottom. Yeah, but I think we're going to see real chop. And the hardest thing to remember, like during real chop, is that you know, every time it's at the top of the range, you think you're about to miss the breakout, and you know, you end up FOMOing into some longs that all of a sudden you're just immediately underwater on. So I think
Brings
it's
me back to my favorite old adage: the trend is not your friend if it's not a trend.
yeah. No, it's I mean, it's super choppy.
And we're used to the trend. Going back to your favorite chart here, the ES mini future. This has been a really strong trending market for probably most of crypto traders' adult life. I say that lightheartedly, as I myself am mid-30s, but like a lot of traders in their 20s, like this is just an uptrend. But you go back
20s and
there
30s. Jesus.
20s and 30s, there was a period here of like this was not a trend, and that lasted from really like 2000 all the way up until 2013. 13 years of trendless weekly chart. I mean, yes, there was a trend within a trend and blah blah, but like we could be headed into that kind of environment.
They really tried to shake them out there too at the end. What if you sold
so
right there?
gross.
You're like, oh shit, new low. I'm fucking out of here. I'll wait.
Somebody
And
did,
then
yeah.
literally went like just turbo, never sell off again for. I mean,
somebody bottom ticks every bottom tick, so I wouldn't be shocked. You know, the question is, did the guy who bottom ticked it get back in?
Yeah.
But you know, but there, look at this. Interestingly, I wish I was around. This was so obvious, but no, looking back 2009, I mean, there was a fat bull div on that weekly. Like the momentum indicators were already long since starting to move up as this low came in. But that's a weekly time frame, so good luck sitting for day after day after day like underwater at any kind of position you try to take there. But yeah, was there? Yeah, there was a bull div here too. Momos had already flipped.
Yeah.
Momos.
I mean, let's take a look at one of our favorites. I mean, the ETHBTC chart. I mean, let's look and see.
Right here, baby.
This has been, you know, it's very representative of altcoins versus Bitcoin. This is, you know, I think we're going to see some fireworks with this thing soon.
Let's start here. So Raoul Paul, I think is his name, right? That guy?
Who's that? The Real Vision guy?
Yeah, Real Vision. So he tweeted something out to the effect of like, this is the most bullish chart ever. And it was a line chart of basically, I won't erase that, but it was basically like the monthly of ETHBTC, just like all coiled up like this. And it was just like this idea of like, this is just so fucking bullish. And I was like, I like that. So ever since then, I've had this kind of gigantic pennant written on my chart just for fun. Cause I mean, imagine trying to trade that. It'd take you a year to see a breakout, but zooming in a little more reasonably to a time frame that we can be actionable on, it is also coiling within its own much tighter range. And so I actually think we're going to see, you know, I don't think this means we have to see a breakout. Like for all the times I've waited on these things to take action, I've actually just seen them kind of like dribble out like very inconsequentially as well. Like it's not like the whole world is watching this pennant, but could be the case that we're going to see some fireworks here for ETHBTC. And that might align really interestingly with the Shanghai upgrade, which is going to enable withdrawals for ETH POS stakers. A lot of debate over whether that is net bullish, net bearish. What are your guys' takes on that? I have my own, but I'd rather hear yours before I poison the waters with my already decided take.
I think, oh gosh, it could just be it could be both. It could be Darth Maul, like both sides. But I think in the end, it'll be looked back on as bullish. And then I'm seeing confluence with the Shanghai upgrade and then the Chinese thing. Like maybe there's this, they're telling us something. But I think Ethereum's going to have its day in the sun. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thought. Now, I had my own opinions. It's like, oh, you know, sell the rumor, buy the news kind of thing. So maybe into Shanghai fork where everyone's worried about this, you know, the big unlocking, the sell-off.
Yeah.
And then the question is also though, when you are able to withdraw, when that risk of like, hey, I'm going to go stake my ETH, but now I can't withdraw, I'm stuck. There's probably a ton of Ethereum on the sidelines right now waiting for this Shanghai upgrade to go smoothly, waiting for proof of withdrawability. And that wave of ETH ready to be staked, once that's live, then you got to say, okay, so what's the bigger side of the coin here? Because also those who are staked knowing that they couldn't withdraw. So are they sitting there like, oh yes, finally I can withdraw and sell and get out of here? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. I think it's net bullish in the sense that
It never works that way.
right? Like, it's just like, oh man, once everyone can withdraw, they're just going to unstake and sell all their ETH and be like.
Somebody
dude,
said that yesterday. It was like,
who's the profile of the person that with deposited? Like, they're bulls. They're
somebody was talking about like some unlock of like, I forget what the tweet was, but it was very much on point. Maybe it was Icebergy or somebody that said it, where it was like, there's 100 and something thousand ETH that is like coming, that's going to be like released onto the market. But there's already like, X, I forgot how much is in circulation, that is basically all going to get sold at the same time and everything's going to zero. Like,
yeah,
it just doesn't work like that, guys.
it was like a
get over the
meme,
cliff concept and the like, everyone's going to come in and dump. It's not like a race to zero, especially like on something like Ethereum. It just doesn't fucking work like that. Like, get it out of your head. Use it as a buying opportunity. Like,
I don't think I like Rob's take, like the Darth Maul kind of day where there's just a lot of uncertainty. It's going to be like a pivotal moment in time where there's some people rushing to short it for whatever reason. Maybe there are some people that are locked up, and when they deposited, the ETH was worth more, and now they're net bearish and they got wrecked in FTX and they need the money and they're going to rush to sell first.
that was the soul play, right? That was the Sam. So one thing that Sam did that was cool. Like, was the fuck you up by everything you got at $3. Like,
the major unlock. We have that actually. I'm so glad you cued me on that. It's my favorite idea in our idea section over here. But we had that moment. Oh my God, what a sweet moment in time it was. But here we go. It was the longing Solana from the all-time lows at the last major distribution. Remember, this was the big like, oh man, once this unlock comes, now Solana's going to tank. But look what it did leading into it.
dude, it's the millennium problem from like 1999 to 2000. Like, everyone thought the world was going to fucking go into disarray because the clocks weren't
the event
passes on computers. Right?
Yeah. So like, and it did pass, and there was a big sell like the 2 days before, again in anticipation. And on the actual day, look at this buy volume that came in. And I was just setting up down there thinking like, damn, this is going to be a pivot more likely than a continuation. We've already seen it. And it was basically like buying Solana at like 250, and then it just went off the charts for like 2 years. So if I don't think that ETH Shanghai upgrade has that much sauce necessarily, but there's definitely something to be said for this chart. ETHBTC zooming out to that massive, big, huge consolidation. This thing is just pressing up into that higher time frame trend line. And now we've got this smaller consolidation just below. So, I mean, hey, if it's flipping here and we got to break out here and go ham, that's going to be such good news for so many bags. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, the deflationary narrative there. I mean,
let's look at it. Minus 39,000 ETH versus plus 1.9 million. That's not bad. I like that.
That's a monstrous number.
That's fine.
That, I mean, we're talking about $1 billion, like almost $2 billion worth of like emission that would have come out. That's a huge swing. Something tells me we don't fully understand it yet, because that's a huge number.
Like, it's weirdly not priced in.
But maybe it's because there was $8 billion or $10 billion of phantom liquidity that was just continue to be pumped in this thing, and so 2 billion, but I don't know, something tells me that eventually the supply and demand there is going to come into play.
Let's do this. Let's go to September 14th, which is when the merge occurred, or at least that's when the ultrasound money started tracking it. And let's just do a hot compare on like Bitcoin and ETH, because I just had kind of a thought like, okay, where are we? January. Let's go to the daily. Like, so here's the thing. They basically are tracking each other. I mean, look at no, let's get them aligned again. Like look at ETH and BTC. And so you had the merge, which would have been, what was it? Oh God, it was all the way over here. Where am I going? June 2022?
Yeah, the merge was like it ran up to 17, 18, and then it just shit the bed, right? I mean, just
so
because
yeah. Okay, so when was the merge? I guess it was right around like August here, like around this like peak Ethereum.
it
price.
literally, yeah.
So let's just take that low. Anyways, here's the thing. There was a massive shift sometime through here, I guess. It was probably around when the merge happened. There was a massive shift in like supply issuance, like a shift in supply and demand. And we haven't really seen it change the effect of these two. So it's not pricing in. It hasn't really changed their relationship much. As you can see on ETHBTC, they've basically been in lockstep ever since, which is really strange if you think about it. And then it kind of begs the question to me of like, what would have happened had they not done the merge? You have 1.9 million ETH in circulation, plus the 30 or 40,000 that have been burned. So like 1.94 million.
That's $2 billion, dude. It's more. It's almost 3.5 billion.
3.5
because
billion.
$3.5 billion. So
that's what I'm saying. It's
like
fucking big deal.
What if we didn't do that? Where would ETH be then? Would it be right here? Like, it's just really strange to me that they're tracking so closely. And I think it would be a mistake to think, well, I guess it's not going to have any impact long term. It's almost just like it hasn't happened yet is more likely. It has to have an impact.
Well, maybe it's because nobody could sell it.
they were all locked up. It's a weird. Anyways, I mean, I am always curious, like, where is that 3 billion?
They were in the VE lit 4-year lock.
Yeah, but the ETH derivatives market, like that thing is big. Like you'd be seeing, I'm sure people are in there with shorts that have hedged exposure. I mean, that brings us up to like one of the narratives, the liquid staking derivatives, which we're going to be seeing a whole lot more on that, I'm sure.
I had a thread about that.
Yeah, I see the Blockmates guys had a thread out there today about it. Like you're going to be seeing a lot more about that. And I mean, look at Lido. I think I said it right for the first time ever. I usually say Lido.
Lido.
Look at Lido. I mean, that thing, where was that low on that when all the fucking ruckus was going on? That shit traded low.
Yeah, I mean, did its thing. I mean, it's actually at an interesting level here, just being above previous all-time highs. Or at least, I don't know if this is all-time because this is a Binance chart, but same old shit, guys. Reload zones through the lows, W breakout, let's go. And now it's just flipped this all-time high resistance, or at least Binance all-time high. It's retested it. In fact, it just made a cheeky little higher high even yesterday. So yeah, I've never traded Lido. I don't know why. Maybe I felt late to the party and I just ignored it. But there's an interesting thread I should share because I don't know enough about this stuff. But Aura Finance put out a good take on it. Somebody I follow retweeted it and I caught my eye today. And I think it's got a lot of interesting points, forward-looking kind of statements and thoughts and analysis about this. I'm going to put it in the chat here for anyone who wants an access.
Some good financial advice in there.
Yeah, exactly. I will let Aura guide your hand. But I don't know if I copied that right. It's not linking. But anyways, it's an interesting thread. And as I post it, I'm like, damn, I don't even know if I know enough to want to discuss this. This is where I would usually like tap Messi on the shoulder and be like, okay, Aura boy, tell us about this. Like, but anyways, it's an interesting piece on just where LSD wars are headed. And I've got a few names I keep dropping in the pit. I won't share them on stream today, but there's a lot of builders in this LSD space. And I think there's going to be some really cool products.
I mean, the concept is not too dissimilar to like convex to curve or things like that, right? I mean, if you're saying that it really, the concept here is that it's unlocking the liquidity of staked ETH.
Essentially, yeah, it's like tools and how you can use that, and this kind of idea of like risk-free rate that could exist in a world where like staked ETH is a relatively constant yield, and then what you can then go and do with that staked ETH. I had a really interesting chat that was again above my head. I was over
Sounds familiar.
with Spada Boom of Badger. They did like a little Badger House kind of event last Thursday. So I
Oh,
went
did you
down there.
go?
Yeah, I went down there and met him. It was
Nice.
nice. It was a quaint, comfy, cozy setting. We had about 15 people there. And we just hung out, and there was a hookah. I tried hookah for the first time. Had some pizzas, couple pops, and
what did the hookah do to you?
And they were talking about all this stuff, this LSDs and all that. Nothing, dude. It was lighter than this. It was actually really nice. It was a really nice one. It was like a $3,000 like electronic hookah with glowing lights and ice cubes and a huge hose. Like, it was crazy. It was cool. So might buy one. But yeah, it's just like flavored tobacco, vapory smoke stuff.
It's got that very Middle Eastern vibe.
Yeah, but you know what? It was kind of nice. It was like a social thing. Like, you're just sitting around, and then you're kind of handing it around, and everyone's just hooting it and blowing out a bunch of smoke. And I guess you're getting a little head rush, but I was already swimming in my vape, so I barely noticed. But anyways, a lot of smart guys over there, and I had a really good chat with Spada himself, and we were talking about this kind of stuff. And the term, he's a really good dude.
Yep.
If you're watching, sir, I love you. And we talked a lot. The risk-free rate came up a number of times. And so did kids. Actually, half the guys there were all raising toddlers and babies, and we were all just like, crypto dad broing up about like how we deal with that. But it was a good time.
I put a tweet out, like, I feel like the second the macro picture flipped, it was like I said something to the effect of DeFi yields are going to have to figure out, DeFi yield protocols are going to have to figure out how to get the risk-free rate plus the risk premium of the protocol. And I feel like it was like it fell on deaf ears.
Don't you hate that when you put out a tweet that you're proud of, and then it smacks, and like you almost have to retweet it to be like, look, guys.
Yeah, it just is like,
I get ignored a lot.
It's so obvious. That's just like 101. If you knew anything about interest rates, like you need, like, yields from U.S. Treasuries are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, and they'll print more money to make sure that interest gets paid. Period. I don't know if there's ever been an instance where they actually went into default, and that basically is the equivalent of risk-free, guaranteed money, right? And like now you have something that is speculative, uncertain. Like, there is a price, and you got to find out from the market. The market needs to decide on like, what is that additional yield that you need? And if you have a rising interest rate environment, which crypto is never in, that market needs to discover what that number is. Is that bless you? Is that 15%? Is that 15%? Is that 12%? Is that 8% over the risk-free rate? Like, to me, it seems a pretty easy, straightforward way of thinking about, how DeFi gets ahead and how it stays relevant. Otherwise, the economic cost to, somebody with a large pool of capital, they're always going to default to why get 6% in a protocol that might rug when I can get 4.5 or 5% in something that is like risk-free or nearly risk-free. And
as risk-free as it gets, yeah.
As risk-free as it gets. Like, that's what so much of like DeFi is going to come down to. Given that you have the choice of both. Not everybody has the choice of just like going to buy like US Treasury bonds. So
yeah, I probably do in some weird roundabout way, but it's not in my local grocery store.
Right. And you're also
Melker put something out to that effect. It's really hard to beat that rate right now with the risk.
I think I'm going on tomorrow on his show with Mark Hxro
nice.
And a couple other guys. So
I need to know when. When are you going on? Let's plug it. I want to watch.
I'm going. Let's see.
Probably 10 a.m. Eastern or 12 p.m. Eastern.
Let's see. 9:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow.
9:30 a.m.
Sorry, on Thursday.
Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Melker, Gunny, et al. Nice.
Mark Hxro and Stephen McClurg, who I don't know who Stephen McClurg is.
Nice. Yeah, he's got good interviews. I like the guys he brings on. Some good stuff. Speaking of Badger, real quick, we should We should mention that they've been teasing at some LSD related stuff, EBTC, things like that. I am not qualified to give you the whole rundown on exactly what all that means, but you can go over and see probably on their Twitter or on Spada's Twitter. They've been tweeting about it. It's not a big secret, but it's maybe a little underappreciated. Yeah.
I'm gonna drop it in the. I'll drop. I'm gonna do them with the solid. I'll drop it in the live chat here.
Yeah, let's drop that link in the live chat. And if you're interested in what Badger's cooking up over here, excited to share EBTC overview, the new protocol the Badgers have been grinding hard building. So we talked a lot about this last Thursday, but again, it's easy to listen and smile and nod. It's a whole other thing to try to like regurgitate it in a meaningful way. But you can find Spot Room 1 on Twitter, and he's explaining it here in depth. And I'm going to retweet it because then you can just find it on my Twitter too. But you should give him a follow. Guy's super smart, and they're building some cool shit over at Badger. And the chart suggests that the market is interested in Badger at these levels. There's a lot of buy volume really since it came down to these lows last July. And there's not a lot of sellers down here. There was like one spurt of selling through November, which was the FTX, which you're going to see everywhere. And we've just reclaimed an interesting level. So I don't hold any of this right now, but I think it's in my wheelhouse down here, and seeing what I'm seeing and not having any LSD protocol exposure. You know, I feel like this might be the horse I choose, but got a little bit of research. I'm not going to buy it live on the air, guys. Relax. But I am going to put this on my short list.
You might end up with some through some of your SPL holdings.
Really?
Not held.
Really? That's exciting thought. I didn't know you guys were working together.
Some variations of that. No, not a Badger. Sorry.
Oh.
Just of the liquid staking.
Oh, sick. Liquid staked ETH or Solana? Oh, I've said too much. I don't know. I actually don't know. Anyways.
It's for another show.
Guys, I don't know what just happened there. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. And we're back. All right.
There's got to be a lot of charts that look like this one, huh?
Dude, like so much right now. And so this is kind of where like, and I'm just going to picking on Badger here, but Mina is another one we were interested in.
Dude, what is the peak to valley? 97%.
Oh, something absurd. Yeah. So, and look, you can factor emissions into that too. You might want to do like a peak to valley on circulating cap or something that's a little more indicative of what's changed since it was at those highs. A lot of these coins, you know, the issuance has just been a big part of that. But like Mina, same thing, right? So you have this trough. A lot of these troughs started last summer. They didn't even get, you know, the Q4 or last year was 2022. Anyways, we have these bottom troughs, sellers drying up, big buyers stepping in. Mina looks good. There's probably 500 charts that look something like this, something like Badger. And then it's
that's some volume coming in there. There's a lot that don't. Yeah, there's volume there too.
Mina stood out to me as well. USDT, like Mina was probably my favorite with regards to like somebody's buying and they're buying a fuckload. And so then when it comes in to like kind of retest this level, it's really hard for me to then, because like Bitcoin and ETH don't even look this good. And so I'm trying to put it all together because usually these charts know things before they happen. You can find, you know, markers. You know, it's like when there's a Binance listing and price is just breaking out. And then what's up?
I think we just got something from the production.
That was the producer in your ear.
Oh, producers in the ear. What do we got?
Some narrative.
Oh yeah, no, Mina was part of the ZK narrative that we talked about weeks ago and is on our agenda here today on the left. So, you know, we got LSDs and AI and ZK and Arbitrum. Anyways, so it is in the ZK ballpark. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like altcoins are almost suggesting, because Bitcoin, like I said earlier, seems very undecided. I am still leaning.
That chart looks so good.
I know. So it's like altcoins are telling us that Bitcoin and ETH are down, like are destined to break upwards. It's like, because they look undecided as fuck, but the altcoins, there's a base there. There's a really
there's gonna be some shit that is gonna just run.
So I look at Mina, for example, and then I come back to ETHBTC and I see this coiling, and I think about Shanghai upgrade going live, and I think about that being now in the past. Perhaps that's a negative catalyst damper in the sense that people are waiting for it to pass before they make, whatever deposits into the POS. Like, I don't know, dude. I think this stuff just looks like rocket fuel. Just needed to be a little spark. But again, you go look at Bitcoin, it's not quite as
If we take all those
decided.
charts, sorry,
Yeah. No, go ahead.
like which ones come up in your head as like that have like the biggest asymmetric upside? Like, so everything's got kind of like some level of market beta to it. So everything kind of looks the same. It's all come off.
Mhm.
And then there's going to be like the alphas out of this that are all going to have this kind of this Gartner meme that we love so much. But then some of them, like if I look at Mina, like old highs in Mina, are like at peak 2021 levels, like, $6. You got 500% of upside to get there, and then hopefully like a new cycle.
Mhm.
But like there's obviously some good asymmetric opportunity there, even if you're wrong, just even on like noise, right? And like what's in there, what's here? Have you kind of done that analysis yet in your charting of like, wait, this is something that's off like 99% or 98% that is like getting volume. It's got a good narrative. It fits like what we think the narrative is going to be. That, whether it's liquid staking derivatives or gambling or trade, on-chain derivatives or something of that has real upside potential, plus like things like staking where you can capture additional yield.
Yeah, I mean, this is the ultimate question when you have a market that has hundreds of coins that look this good, that look this tempting, and then you run out of money after the first 5 because you're like, man, I'm already loaded up. And so it really comes down to an analysis of like, how can I best deploy my capital? Because oftentimes in this market, there is a handful of perhaps a couple hundred coins that are blue chip enough to run, and high tide rise all boats. And so you're all going to make money, but which one move next, which one move most is the question really when you're thinking about trying to optimize your positioning. And so to get to that answer, you have to think through all of the narratives. Right now, Arbitrum Eco has been doing pretty well. I think maybe more recently kind of selling off a bit, and that could be the dip. ZK's heating up a little bit. AI had its run first, really through November, December, January. LSDs, I think, are undoubtedly should be considered the hottest thing going forward, especially with Shanghai coming. Presumably more Ethereum being staked in the wake of that, and then thus more volume and utility coming for all of these liquid stake derivatives. But here's the thing: rather than sitting here before the market has shown its hand, I mean, I think the volume on this chart, you could argue, has kind of tipped its hand, but going over to like LDO is kind of the leading sort of liquid staking derivative, whatever. Already breaking 2 new highs, consistently higher volume since basically December 31st, like the second the year calendar turned over. Waiting for the leaders of any one of those sectors I just mentioned, whether it be Arbitrum, ZK, AI, LSD, waiting for the leaders of one of those to really break. And to me, that's your signal to say, okay, this is the next hot hand sector. This is where I want to start deploying, and having those short lists made. So you're like, okay, let me get all of these LSD projects into a TradingView shortlist. Let me get all my AIs in a shortlist, get my ZKs in a shortlist, get my Arbitrums in a shortlist. And then waiting for the highest market cap, highest volume players on those lists to break out and just do some nasty shit. And then you can spread out into that sector, because it could
like
be
hot
one
ball of money in that
Yes.
little sector and just keep it circulating.
Yep. And then find your levels. I mean, this is how I would trade it, because I'm going to be a little more midterm, short term about it. I'm not going to be like, and then park your money for 10 years because AI is the next hot thing. But it's like, let's get a chaos PRZ on this basket that I just put on. And when that comes in, I'm going to get out. I'm going to make some money, and then I'm going to rotate that into whatever. And if they all run together, so be it. You only get to ride one. But that's probably how I would do it. And the reason is, guessing at what comes next is a lot harder than missing the first one and then catching the 3 or 4 that echo after it. I really like to wait for that hot sort of tip, essentially, from the market. If Lido pumps here to 350, like, you can bet every other LSD project that's worth its salt is going to run in the weeks after, days after. So That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
On that note, I have not created such lists and I have not ironed that out hardcore. So I'm actually going to make a note. We have a marketing call tonight on my fund. And we're gonna start putting those lists together because yeah, it's the kind of thing that's going to come fast. And I'm just going to pick on Singularity token here, AGIX. I mean, look at this thing. So,
gosh, that thing's been around for a while. Look how
I know
absolutely fucking murked that looked,
dude. And this was around before this a KuCoin listing. This thing was around for even longer, and it was dead and nuked. And then the AI started running. Now I actually tried to long it here.
God bless it.
The chart looked very different down here at 9 cents. It looked like it was just going to flag and do one more little leg, and I couldn't get filled because it's on KuCoin. The volume's too low, and even trying to fill anything over 5K bag, and you're just like pushing price. And so I couldn't get filled. I didn't. And then, anyways, this thing's starting to break today. So like, is AI taking its next leg after really, AI hasn't really moved. If we use this as an indicator of what AI has been doing, hasn't really moved for the entire month. So it may be the case that the hot ball of money is about to roll back into AI for another leg, which by this measure would actually be the top because it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the exhaustion finale. So I might keep an eye on AI over the next coming week or two. If this thing, geez.
Oh my God.
I know. And like this volume, this just looks so ridiculous. So it's tough to call this a bear market when you look around. I think what we're seeing though more and more is like a maturing market where you can have like simultaneous bear trends and bull trends, right? Like AI as a sector is in a bull market. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, like sector rotation.
Yeah, sector rotation.
This shit is all illiquid too. I mean, this is illiquid. No one's putting their fucking line, their foot in the sand and like standing at a level and saying this shit's not going higher. Like that's not happening.
So is Singularity? Sorry, Robbie, go ahead.
No, I'm done. I'm in awe of this.
Was Singularity net? Was it a different project or thesis, and then like pivoted and just like?
No.
Okay,
it has been
always an AI.
Yeah, it's been an AI. Like it's got Ben Gortzel, who is one of like the leading minds of AI in the world. I actually saw him on a documentary in 2008. The Singularity is Near, with Ray Kurzweil's kind of biop, and it's an interesting doc. It's a little outdated now, but anyways, he was in there. So when I saw him on the team page of this back in whatever it was, like 2019, 2018, I was like, yo, that's dope. Ben Gortzel, he's legit. But the token struggled to find utility. And now it's got the narrative to, as we know, narratives drive price better than any token utility or demand could ever. So this is flying. And yeah, no, they've been AI through and through. So they were just a little early. So we're seeing a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, based purely on this chart, I'd say, man, I should probably be skimming through my AI shortlists tonight and thinking about if this next leg comes, what it looks like. And then LSDs, like if you're not thinking about LSD protocols through Shanghai, I don't know what to tell you. That's just such a slam dunk idea. No guarantees from management, but like if that's not where I'm looking to put some sauce in the market, I think I'm doing myself a disservice. So I'll be looking at those too. And I haven't really touched any of the LSDs yet, but I think the best is yet to come. I'm not going to succumb to this idea of like, I missed it in February of 2023. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
I might have missed a leg. I might have missed a leg and it stings, but I think there's a ton of coming utility for LSD stuff. And that's kind of what was at the crux of like what we talked about at the Badger House last Thursday was like, we haven't even scratched the surface of the products and things that can be built specifically in DeFi, but even beyond, using sort of that underlying ETH POS reward. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool to watch it unfold.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. This is not there's opportunity out there. I mean, there's no question. Like people who are doing their research, he's doing research.
I mean, if you don't think that there's 100Xs out here, I don't know what to tell you. Now, I'm not one to wait for 100X. I'm always rotating at 5 and 10 and whatever, but save a moon bag. But there's going to be some hundreds coming out of this sort of trough, and I'm here for it.
But that concept it makes so much logical sense. It's crazy to me. Like,
yeah,
it's just
like, holy shit, look at Badger. I forgot it was in like 67 at one point. So, I mean, look at this chart. Can I get a double? Can I get the triple? Like, I don't know. I think I've talked myself into like just kind of blindly starting a Badger position here because of everything we talked about last week. There is some brewing on the charts. They're openly discussing sort of moving into ETH staking stuff. Shanghai coming. Like, I like it. In fact, let's go see. Timeless is another one I like. That's going to have to be a topic for another day because I'm not fully prepared to discuss it yet. Because until I've locked and done the stuff and learned more about it, I'm not going to have much helpful stuff to say. But
is this the 99-year staking?
No, 4 years. You can get VLIT for 4 years. Bribe market's coming. It's like, yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, 99 years. Like, it's out
Jesus.
there.
It is.
RT and I have a buddy that I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name, but he's a max staking maxi, and we were joking about 100-year lock, and he said, "Oh, so and so has a 99-year."
Yeah,
or 99-year lock.
If there's a 99-year lock out there, this guy will find it and he'll take it. I thought about this as like maybe like a workaround to like the burning. People are like, oh, you can't burn tokens and this and that because it's like creates a security. I was like, okay, what if we didn't burn it? What if we just locked it for 100 years or 1,000 years? Theoretically, it still exists.
Dude,
this is
liquid. This is just this has just been my take on like, at least like this is how we've been thinking so much about this. Like, if you take a step back and look at like DeFi over the last few years and how it's evolving, like you need to extract some of the mechanics out of it and think about how to apply it into these different kind of ecosystems and environments. Like there's so much garbage and there's so much rugging that it totally like it puts this like shroud over the good elements of it. And if you can kind of see through it and extract it and then apply it into other ecosystems, the mechanics are super powerful. Like, and it doesn't have to be this like a mission based like rug pull. It actually can function. And I think that we're getting to that point, and like LSDs are one element of that. And as those things spin up and get bigger, there's gonna be tons of rug projects around it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the copycats come in, the scammers, the opportunists. And we talked about this with GameFi, right? When Axis Infinity was going insane 2 summers ago, you and I were on here and we were talking about how neither of us had a bag and we were missing. I said, don't worry about it because in 6 months there's going to be 500 of these things. But then you get that like horizontal kind of dilution of liquidity and they all just go to zero. And then some rise from the ashes. Actually, I think an old favorite of ours over at my fund, Gahemium, shot up 300% yesterday after announcing a partnership with Meta. So some kind of, like some of these, look at this thing. I mean, some of these are not dead. Their job is to make you think they're dead, to lay still in the shadows until some of their biz dev comes to life. And apparently, although I don't have the link handy, Pizzy was telling me that this is something to do with like a Meta partnership that was announced. So that's cool. Not a buy recommendation, obviously. It's up 300% today, but just the point being like, yeah, horizontal dilution of liquidity into the trash. And then of course the live ones come back to life. And I'm really happy to see
shit gets repriced. Shit gets repriced.
Now for anyone who doesn't know, you can go on CoinGecko. It's an outstanding website, by the way, and pick any, blue chip in the realm, in the sector that you want, and you can find these tags. Very, very helpful. We did not have these back in the day. They exist now. Go to this tag on the Lido page, for example, click liquid staking governance tokens, and they will give you a short list. And perhaps the real alpha exists on the ones that have yet to reach this short list. I don't see Badger on there. I have a feeling it'll be on there sometime in the next 6 months, possibly sooner. Although, is it a governance token? I don't know. But point is, finding these lists is a great way to start your research. because obviously, you know, if I look at Anchor, I can click on the Anchor page, I can go to the Anchor website, I can go to their Discord. So it's a really nice research tool, and these tags have just made life so much easier. Go to SingularityNet, click on the tag. Oh, that's Ethereum ecosystem. That's kind of lame. What's another good AI one? Deep Brain. Oh God. DBC. Anyways, you find one that has an AI tag, artificial intelligence. There you go. Now here's your AI list. So I think this is probably the best way to start shortlisting. And then I think the real alpha often exists in the weeds where they're not even on this list yet. CoinGecko has not categorized them yet. They're new.
Put it on the wall and start throwing darts.
Yeah. Like there's some names in here that look good, man. I forgot about Ocean. Let's go see Ocean. I could go all day with you boys. How you
Ocean
doing
is
for
AI
coming?
now?
Yeah. What do you mean? Ocean's AI. You know what I have seen though that's cringe, and I saw it coming like a mile away, is like a lot of the pitch decks we're getting these days. It's just AI powered, AI enabled. It's like a thing you have to throw in there, and that could mean that they're using like an API to something that uses AI. Like it's really vague and weird, and frankly, I'm trying to avoiding. But yeah, the word AI enabled or AI powered or AI backed has popped up in like 90% of the pitch decks we've looked at in the last 2 months. It's a sad reality. Saw it coming. That doesn't mean it's bad. Maybe there's a sick AI project coming our way, but like generally speaking, if you're like GameFi, I don't want to see that kind of like
AI powered GameFi.
Yeah, like the AI powered GameFi LSDZK.
Mm-hmm. That's the shit
funny
right
that you
there.
guys have been building for 6 years, but you're raising now. Like, yeah, it's all
for
very,
AI.
very suspect. Yeah, so we'll see, guys. What's the Ocean doing? Is it coming back down here for us? I don't have a bag. Might acquire. We are getting close to like the 2-hour mark, although I think coming in a little late. We're probably at 1:40. But how are you guys feeling? I think we've said a lot. Certainly looked at a lot.
It's been good to be back.
Yeah.
It's been good to be back. Yeah.
It's hard to be away as long as we were.
I think I need to adjust my lighting here. I'm not in the home studio. I gotta find my sweet spot. I'm not looking as fresh as usual.
Your John Stamos has dropped from a 10 out of 10 to like a 7.5.
Yeah, I'm gotta get my ring light. Dan's got probably 3 ring lights there surrounding him, one hanging from the ceiling.
Absolutely zero. As a matter of fact, I think this is just purely off the white of the CoinGecko.
Yeah, you can actually see your private keys in the reflection of your glasses. So.
Perfect.
But yeah, I've got 2 key lights that don't fit my new setup. I got to find a way to set them up so that my little like eye socket shadows go away.
I gotta work on my centering. It looks like my head is ginormous. I'm like the guy head from. I feel like I'm getting off centered here. I gotta figure my shit out. Figure my shit out.
I feel like we've set a really nice base for the coming months here with just, getting a few narratives out there. Obviously, I didn't even talk about China coins. If the Hong Kong narrative steals the show going into whatever that date is, June 5th, then what the West is going to do is buy all the Chinese coins they can. So, and then, China will dump them on us. So, let's pray for an East versus West style arms race in crypto regulation and more importantly, crypto innovation, like acceptance. Because if that arms race starts, we are in for a ride.
Does that mean we buy Neo?
Neo was going. I'm not shitting you, dude. Look at it. Look at this thing. Neo went vertical the other day.
It's still around.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I don't know what they're doing over there, but I remember maybe the start of 2020, post bear market, they had a treasury of $350 million. So I don't think they spent it yet. It's been 2.5 years. But look at this. So look, let's keep an eye on this because this is a breakout. And as it dips into what is now the PCZ, don't be surprised if this thing just chills for a bit and then there's another big leg and everyone goes, oh man, I forgot about the Chinese coins.
Golly.
This
is left curve it here. Holy shit.
Yeah. probably want to do a little research first. I actually don't know what Neo's doing. No one seems to want to build over there. So.
Yeah, I have zero idea. No
it was
idea.
very cool back in the day, though. It was like Chinese smart cities will be built.
It was the
on Neo.
Chinese Ethereum, wasn't it, Gunny?
Yeah.
Forever. That's how
Yeah.
people were asking us.
Yeah, Ant shares turned Neo.
Wow.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
so it's had its runs,
Right.
but look, it could be waking up here, even just for like a counter trend rally would be probably a couple hundred. Now Neo's probably not my choice, but there's going to be a lot of interesting Chinese based teams, coins. So that's yet another narrative we forgot to really touch on Coinbase wise or coin wise, but yeah, lots of good stuff coming, guys. We're going to be back on the show every other week. As far as I know, we're going to flip flop back and forth between Network Effect and DeltaFi. We're going to have solo streams. So you get me every week. I'll be on here Tuesdays or Thursdays at around 2 p.m. Eastern. And I look forward to seeing you guys next, what is it, Tuesday today? So Thursday. I'll be
Tuesday,
back.
we're going to go talk Hxro Network and exciting things that we can talk about and release there that maybe we were hinting at here but not talking about.
Yeah, definitely got a few hints from you. I'm going to pick your brain next Tuesday on the Network Effect, which we're going to actually pre-record and then send out live, push live later that day. And I'll be back Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern to see where all of these charts have ended up between now and then. And hopefully we'll come back with a little more information on some of my more favorite investments or purchases this year. Like Lit, Timeless. I think that thing is dope. I think it has massive potential. I'm just not quite prepared to talk about it yet because I don't know how it works yet, but I'm going to do my V-locking and get into the grease so I can be a little bit more helpful on Thursdays. From now until then, whatever you guys do, always play from a position of strength. Thanks for coming by.